Hello, welcome to the weekly highlights program in Azərbaycan Televiziya. I'm Qocaman. Now first, let's take a brief look at some of the top stories of this week. This week, the World Health Organization's decision-making body, World Health Assembly, met for its 74th session. The statement of President İlham in a video format was presented at the closing ceremony of the session. A group of employees of Azərbaycan Televiziya and Azərbaycan State News Agency, AZTV, have been filming in our liberated regions for some time in order to promote and document the vandalism committed by Armenia during the 30-year occupation, mounted as a result of a landmine explosion on the way to Susuzluk village of Kəlbəcər on June 4th. A funeral ceremony was held for martyred journalists. The World Health Organization's decision-making body, World Health Assembly, met for its 74th session of the theme, Ending this Pandemic, Preventing the Next, Building Together a Healthier, Safer and Fairer World on 21st to 31st May in a video format. At the invitation of the World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, a statement by President İlham in a video format was presented at the closing ceremony of the session.
Distinguished delegates, before we proceed further, I have the honor to welcome our high-level guest who will now address the Assembly. I have the pleasure to invite His Excellency İlham Oğlu Ayav, President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, to give his remarks.
Distinguished Director General, distinguished delegates, I would like to start by expressing my gratitude for the invitation to address the 74th session of the World Health Assembly, which takes place in a very challenging time for the global health agenda due to the current COVID-19 pandemic. Azerbaijan supports the leading role and efforts of the World Health Organization in the global health governance, including in coordinating the global response to the pandemic. From the very first days of the pandemic, Azerbaijan has taken practical measures to minimize negative impact of COVID-19 on the population and to keep the situation under control. Within a short period of time, 13 modular hospitals and 1 regular hospital were built. Total number of beds designated to treat COVID patients throughout the country is more than 10,000. At the same time, the socio-economic stimulus package worth almost $2 billion have been released in order to support COVID-affected people and business. As a result of comprehensive measures, our country has gradually eased the quarantine regime. We have launched immunization campaign since mid-January this year using 99.94% of Sinovac vaccine and the rest AstraZeneca and Sputnik vaccines. 2 million vaccine doses have already been administered. This number constitutes 20% of our total population. All the citizens above 18 years old can get vaccinated voluntarily. COVID-19 passports are issued for those vaccinated. We welcome the designation of 2021 as a year of health and care workers. Azerbaijan has very fruitful cooperation with the World Health Organization. Last year, the World Health Organization hailed Azerbaijan as an exemplary country in fighting the pandemic. Azerbaijan has always propagated the importance of demonstrating a committed global solidarity to overcome the pandemic. In this capacity, as the chair of the non-aligned movement, Azerbaijan has initiated a number of global initiatives, in particular, the holding of the summit of the non-aligned movement in May 2020 and convening a special session of the United Nations General Assembly at the level of the heads of state and government in December 2020, which was supported by more than 150 states. Azerbaijan has made voluntary financial contribution to the World Health Organization in the amount of $10 million and provided humanitarian and financial assistance to more than 30 countries with regard to coronavirus. Azerbaijan publicly condemned actions of some countries which purchase several times more vaccines than their actual needs and deprive developing countries from protecting their populations. The persisting vaccine nationalism and deepening inequality in access to vaccines between developing and developed countries are disturbing. According to international reports, so far, more than 82% of the world vaccine doses have been purchased by wealthy countries, while only 0.3% have gone to low-income countries. To address this challenge, Azerbaijan, on behalf of the non-aligned movement, initiated a resolution on ensuring equitable, universal access for all countries to vaccines in the UN Human Rights Council, which was unanimously adopted this March. We strongly encourage developed countries and international donor organizations to support developing, in particular, least developed countries to this end. Thank you.
On June 3rd, President İlham Aliyev has attended the inauguration of the newly renovated 135 6-kilowatt Binagedi substation owned by Azerbaijani Open Transport Company in Binagedi district, Baku. Chairman of the Azerbaijani Open Transport Company, Babarzayev, said that the administrative building of the Absheron regional power grid was rebuilt. The whole administrative building of the network has been expanded and overhauled. The necessary conditions have been created for the personnel to work uninterruptedly. Moreover, a transport platform and areas have been created for the machines and mechanisms of special equipment of the Azerbaijani Open Transport Company to be provided with repair services. Special purpose vehicles capable of operating on various terrains and in difficult conditions were purchased. A site for the repair of transformers has been built on the territory. As part of the work performed on the reconstruction of the 110/35 6-kilowatt Binagedi substation, a new control center complete with the new equipment equipped with modern microprocessor-type digital control, security and automation systems was built. A local micro-SCADA system was installed and the substation control was completely digitized.
63 MW gücündə 4 ədəd transformator yenilənib. 110, 35 və 6 kilovoltluq daxili hava xətlərinin çıxışı kabel xətləri vasitəsilə əvəz edilib.
President İlham Aliyev was also informed about the work carried out at reconstructed small hydroelectric power stations Sugovoshan 1 and Sugovoshan 2 with a total capacity of 7.8 megawatts in the Sugovoshan settlement liberated from occupation. It should be noted that the reconstruction of the Binagedi substation is also significant because it plays an important role in the sustainable provision of power supply to the Binagedi, Nerimanov and Nesimi districts of the capital. It should also be noted that on the basis of special project improvement and greenery works have been carried out. A group of reporters of Azerbaycan Television and Azerbaycan State Information Agency AZTV have been filming in our liberated regions for some time in order to promote and document the vandalism committed by Armenia during the 30-year occupation mounted as a result of a landmine explosion on the way to Susuzluk village of Kelbejar on June 4th. The cameraman of Azerbaycan Television is 32 years old, Siraj Abushev, and reporter of AZTV, 39-year-old Mehrem Ibrahimov were killed in the line of duty. 3 persons were wounded. Ceremonies were held on June 5th to bid farewell to the slain civilians.
Qabaq maşınımız miniyə düşüb. Allah eləsin, salamatçılığı olsun. Allah'a təvəkkül, susuzluq kəndi, Kəlbəcər. Onlar biraz önüne gedirdiler. Bizim çəkilişimiz var idi arkada, onu çəkib gəlirdik.
But unfortunately, it did not happen as his colleague had expected. The bus carrying a group of reporters of Azerbaycan Television and Azerbaycan State Information Agency, AZTV, making reportages on our liberated territories, hit the anti-tank mine on the way to Susuzluk village of Kelbejar. As a result, the cameraman of the Azerbaycan Television and Radio Broadcasting Cluster and Stock Company, Siraj Abushev, an employee of Azerbaijan State News Agency, Mehrem Ibrahimov, the deputy representative of the mayor's office in the Kelbejar district in the administrative territorial district of Susuzluk village, Arif Aliyev, were slain in the line of duty.
Susuzluk kendine gelen yolda, bak burada maşının arka tarafı düşüb, yəqin ki, arxa tərəfi düşüb miniyə, böyük ihtimal. Yox, qabaq sağ salamatdır, görürsən, qabağı düşmür. Arxa düşmüş olar. Ola bilər. Götürüb arxasında atıb. Bax, minanın yeridir bura. Bura böyük bir çuxurdur. Çox böyük bir çuxurdur. Arkada oturan, bu arxa insanlar oturan, yəni yerdə, avtobus hissəsində olan bizim iki yoldaşımız, Siraç ve AZTV'den Siraç, Mehrem de o tarafta. O tarafta Azərbaycan əməkdaşı Haqqın rəhmətinə qovuşurlar. Ümumi vəziyyət hal-hazırda budur. Yaxın getə bilmirik hələ ki.
The television director at Azerbaycan Television, Rəsmi Məmmədov, bus driver and a village resident were wounded. This incident is another example of the crimes committed by the enemy against the civilians. At the same time, this is an act targeting media representatives' activity in our liberated territories. It should be mentioned that a group of reporters of Azerbaycan Television and Azerbaycan State Information Agency are making reportages in our liberated territories. The aim is to demonstrate to the world and document the vandalism committed by Armenia within 30 years of occupation. Ceremonies were held to bid farewell to the journalist, cameraman of Azerbaycan Television, Siraj Abushev, and reporter of AZTV, Mehrem Ibrahimov, who were killed after hitting mine in line of duty in Kelbejar. Under the instructions of President İlham Aliyev, President's assistant Hikmet Hajiyev attended the farewell ceremonies and extended condolences on behalf of President İlham Aliyev and First Lady Mihriban Aliyeva. This fact related to the mines once again shows that Armenia is pursuing a deliberate policy against Azerbaijani civilians. According to the documents adopted on the international level, during military operations, the journalists and the line of duty are equated with civilians. It means that killing of journalists, the killing as a result of mine blast, is regarded as a crime against civilians, and the Republic of Armenia directly bears the responsibility for this, said AD to the President Hikmet Hajiyev. A ceremony to bid farewell to Siraj Abushev was held in his house in Hacı Zeynalabdin settlement in Sumgayit city. He was buried in Sumgayit Martyrs Alley. A ceremony to bid farewell to AZTV reporter Mehrem Ibrahimov was held in his house in Binagede district. He was buried near the graves of his parents at the cemetery in Mushfigabad settlement of Absheron district. Siraj's mother, Azadeh Abusheva, said she was always proud of her brother who was a martyr, and Siraj always took pride in his uncle. Today we are proud of both Siraj and my brother. Now I am proud of being a martyr's sister and a martyr's mother, she said. Assistant of Kəlbəcər Executive Authority's representative for Susuzluq village, Arif Aliyev, who was also killed after hitting mine along with media representatives, was buried in Kəlbəcər Matizali in Göygöl district. The ceremony to bid farewell to him was attended by the members of his family, his next of kin officials and representatives of the public. The footage of a vehicle blown up by landmine in Kəlbəcər was shared. It was filmed by one of the persons in the car. The footage shows that the car was driving on an unpaved road. Suddenly, an explosion occurred. Member of the European Parliament from Croatia, Ziljana Zovko, shared a post on her Twitter page. The post reads as follows: "My deep condolences to the families of the victims of the landmine explosion in Azerbaijan. Joint efforts are needed to demine the area to avoid similar incidents in the future and to ensure the security of all citizens in the region." The world community, including France, should abandon the unbalanced policy in favor of Armenia. French senator, member of the Nizami Ganjavi National Center, Nathalie Goulier, stated she expressed condolences to the families of journalists Siraj Abuzov and Mehrem Ibrahimov, who died as a result of a mine explosion in Kəlbəcər region. The armed forces of Armenia must immediately provide maps of mine territories, the French senator underscored. Noting that she had visited the Azerbaijan Mine Action Agency, Nathalie Goulier emphasized that the international community should help Azerbaijan in demining all territories, contribute to the peace process with its fair and balanced policy. I appeal to my European colleagues, instead of supporting the Armenian lobby for pre-election reasons, come to Azerbaijan and express your opinion, Nathalie Goulier emphasized. Representatives of all Turkish mass media share the pain of loss with their Azerbaijani counterparts these days. Journalistic organizations, well-known correspondents of the fraternal country, strongly condemn the terror committed by the Armenians against the representatives of the news agencies of Azerbaijan. Dean of Bayram Veli University Faculty of Journalism in Ankara, Zakir Afshar, President of the International Journalists Association of Turkish-speaking countries, Güngör Yavuz Aslan, Correspondent of A Haber TV channel, Kerim Ulak, Correspondent of Haber Global, Hasan Ulaş, Correspondent of CNN Turk TV channel, Fulya Öztürk, expressed deep condolences in connection with the deaths of Azerbaijani journalists of news agencies AZTV, Siraj Abuzov and Azertaj Mehrem Ibrahimov, who were killed as a result of a landmine explosion while performing their official duties. Representatives of the authoritative Turkish media emphasized that the deaths of the Azerbaijani colleagues clearly testifies that the Azerbaijani territories mined by Armenia also impede journalistic activities, restrict them and turn them into dangerous professions. Stressing that Armenia does not provide a map of the mined areas, Turkish journalists say this behavior is the biggest obstacle to peace, security and cooperation in the region. They call on the world community not to turn a blind eye to Armenia's gross violation of its obligations and to demand the provision of a map of the mined Azerbaijani territories. Representatives of the Azerbaijani mass media and the public of the country visit the corner of memory of the journalists killed in Kəlbəcər, created at the entrance to the Azerbaycan television. Hundreds of people come here to pay tribute to the memory of Siraj Abuzov and Mehrem Ibrahimov.
Ответ двое погибли на месте. Давайте отойдем немножко. Akşam etkiler şey vermiş.
Now it's time to review the global developments with our special guest. I'm currently joined by Orhan Amashev, international law expert. Thank you for your time. I would like to recall the tragic events occurred on June 4th in Kəlbəcər region while performing the duties. Two media representatives, cameraman of Azərbaycan Televiziya and correspondent of AZTV, as well as government officials, were killed as a result of a landmine explosion. So what's the position of international law in relation to the use and removal of mines?
First of all, let me say that what happened is deeply tragic, and I would like to take this opportunity and offer my condolences, and I may the souls of those people who died rest in peace. It's deeply tragic, but unfortunately, there's absolutely no guarantee that these events will never happen again, because we do not have those minefield maps, and as long as we don't have them, we will not be able to remove and neutralize mines from those areas. Since the beginning, since the November declaration, we have Azerbaijani side, as far as I know, has cleared about 35,000 mines, but there's lots of things to be done. And if we don't have minefield maps, this process of getting rid of them will take about 10 years. So there's a long process to go, and we need to get those maps. So what is the position of international law? Armenia's stance is pretty much relied on the old precept, which is currently very old-fashioned and outdated. They say, according to the international customary law, this rule changed over the past 3 decades. The party which is laying down those mines, the party which is planting them, is also responsible for removing them. So, in other words, the party which is in charge of that area has to get rid of those mines, has to remove them. But this particular rule is very outdated. We have to examine this case in line with the 1980 Convention on the Conventional Weapons. The Protocol 2, which attached to that convention, says that once you retreat from those lands, of which you were in charge previously, it doesn't absolve you of the responsibility of not providing the necessary information to the other side. To be clear, as Armenian side, in line with this particular rule, is to provide Azerbaijani side with minefield maps. So the first limb of Armenian argument is that we are not in charge of Kəlbəcər now. It doesn't really matter. They were in charge. They did plant those mines, and they have to let us know what the maps are. This is the first thing. The second limb of Armenian argument is that, well, they do not have those maps. The international law, and there's a Rule 83 of the international customary law which has been codified, says in the clearest possible terms that once you lay down those maps, you are bound to have necessary maps about them. Not having them does not preclude your responsibility. So when it comes to law, the position of Armenia cannot stand any criticism. And it is very clear from what I've said and from what I've clarified in my answer.
So what can be done in real terms to compel Armenia to withdraw within law to hand over these minefield maps?
Well, for us, for Azerbaijan, it's a technical matter, because once hostilities are over, the sides need to exchange the maps. This is a clear rule of international law. Armenia does see this problem as a political issue, because they want to get something out of it by not giving it in a timely manner. What can be done? And the first thing, of course, is increasing international awareness, which Azerbaijani side has been doing over the past 3-4 months. Our foreign minister appealed to the General Secretary of the United Nations, and also international organizations have been informed about it. But the second thing, I think, is far more important, and we need to pay special attention to it. We need to examine this case and win our case in a legal sphere. Azerbaijan has already lodged a lawsuit at the European Court of Human Rights, because it's a human rights matter. Because when those mines are there, they are not being removed and neutralized in a proper way. It doesn't just endanger people's lives. Apart from endangering lives, it also does obstruct Azerbaijani IDPs from returning to their native lands. So for that matter, it's to do with the rights of property, right to live in your own home, and for that reason, Azerbaijan has already appealed to, has already lodged a lawsuit at the European Court of Human Rights. So this is the second most important aspect. But I think that most effective way is going to be putting pressure on Armenia through international organizations, through other regional actors, and there should be a new agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia, which should be very extensive and cover all sorts of issues, including there must be specific provision about the exchange of the minefield maps. I think that this third way can actually give us a guarantee that we can sort this problem out in the fullness of time.
Thank you very much for coming, Orhan. This was all for the week. Thank you for watching us and see you next Sunday.